This final tutorial in the series is going to show you how we use color in order to control line weight and how to plot to a paper scale. So we already set up our Layout tab in Tutorial 1. Let's go ahead and check out Layout 3. Hopefully, if all goes well, you should see your drawing sitting in the middle of this piece of paper. If that's not the case, you might want to check again that your Viewport Scale is set to an appropriate scale. In this case, we were going to try out 1 inch equals 10 feet, and that looks like our whole drawing fits on the sheet of paper, so that seems to be fine. You could try different scales if your drawing is not showing up. You might also, just to check, double-click inside of the viewport to activate the viewport. Now you'll see that I can actually edit the elements that are drawn in model space. If I pan around, I'm literally moving the placement of the drawing on the sheet. And likewise, if I zoom within my viewport, I have just changed the scale of my drawing. So you want to be very careful. You don't want to inadvertently change the scale of your drawing. To reset that, I would double-click outside of the viewport to return to paper space, what we call paper space. Then I would again select my viewport and reset my scale, and it'll zoom it back to the appropriate scale. Just for the sake of clarity, I want to turn my grid off, and the grid is only showing in model space right now, so I want to double-click inside of the viewport, uncheck the grid, and then double-click outside of the viewport so that I don't inadvertently zoom or pan. Viewports are funny things that they actually are geometry, so this outline will print if I don't put it on a non-printing layer. Very quickly, I'm going to create a new layer, Z Viewport. For some reason, and I don't have a good explanation, I always set my non-printing layers to color 200. It's a force of habit. And then underneath the little printer icon, I want to check that so that it has that red Ghostbusters symbol across it. And that way, when I set my viewport to that layer, it will not print. I can still see it, I can still edit it, but it won't print. We need to load something that's called the CTB file, which is a color-dependent plotting file. You can go to your File pull-down menu and click Plot Styles, which opens a folder that's full of all of the CTB files that AutoCAD has access to. What we need you to do is download the CTB file that's provided to you on Polylearn and place a copy of that CTB file into this folder. So here I have my downloaded line weight file, my downloaded CTB file, that I want to place a copy by dragging and making sure that I hold the Control or the Option key so that it's copying, placing a copy inside of the Plot Styles folder. So that's the first step. And remember that we are calling our file Line Weights Standard. Then you can go ahead and close this window. Let's move this out of the way and return to AutoCAD. Then in Layout 3, I want to visit my page setup again. So I'm going to start typing page setup, edit, which will bring me back to this box. Make sure you're using a PDF printer. You might need to download one, a free one. And then over here in my plot styles, I want to change this so that I'm using Line Weights Standard CTB. And I want to print with my plot styles and say OK. What the CTB file is doing is it's telling AutoCAD, when you see color red, color number 1, I want you to make a line that's 0.04 millimeters, or a very thin line, and on down the line, up to color 6, which is magenta, which is a 0.35 millimeter line. We've given you a relatively simplified palette of line weights. If you need more options, please ask one of the instructors and we can show you how to add more colors to your CTB file. You'll also notice that colors 251 to 254 are shades of gray, getting lighter and lighter, and all of those are at 0.08 millimeter line weight. Just to get a sense of what our drawing line weights look like right now, let's go ahead and type the command plot. which is AutoCAD's term for printing. And if we click Print Preview, we can zoom in and it'll produce a PDF for us where hopefully we will see some line weights emerging as we get closer. Yeah. So we're seeing that the building outlines are thicker. We have thinner lines for the curb. And these should be gray. It's a little bit hard to tell from the preview. Incidentally, you can go ahead and just save this print preview, and you have just created a PDF of your file. So that can be a pretty handy shortcut if you're happy with what you see. If you wanted to go back and change a line weight, you would simply go back to the layer color. For example, if I wanted the building's line to be even more bold, I simply change the color of the layer and that will modify the line weight.